The opinion of all the commercial men was that, under the reverses which had successfully weighed down Morrel, it was impossible for him to remain solvent. Great, therefore, was the astonishment when at the end of the month he cancelled all of his obligations with his usual punctuality. Still, confidence was not restored to all minds, and the general opinion was that the complete ruin of the unfortunate shipowner had been postponed only until the end of the month. The month passed, and Morrel made extraordinary efforts to get in all his resources. Formerly his paper, at any date, was taken with confidence, and was even in request. Morrel now tried to negotiate bills at 90 days only, and none of the banks would give him credit. Fortunately, Morrel had some funds coming in on which he could rely. And, as they reached him, he found himself in a condition to meet his engagements when the end of July came. The agent of Thomson French had not been again seen at Marseilles. The day after, or 2 days after his visit to Morrel, he had disappeared. And as in that city he had no intercourse with but the mayor, the inspector of prisons, and Monsieur Morrel, his departure left no trace except in the memories of these three persons. As to the sailors of the Pharaon, they must have found snug berths elsewhere, for they also had disappeared. Captain Gaumard, recovered from his illness, had returned from Palma. He delayed presenting himself at Morrel's, but the owner, hearing of his arrival, went to see him. The worthy shipowner knew, from Penelon's recital, of the captain's brave conduct during the storm, and tried to console him. He brought him also the amount of his wages, which Captain Gaumard had not dared to apply for. Well, it seems like we're getting one of these chapters that is just kind of speeding through time, and that's okay. We don't need to dwell on everything. Dumas is giving us plenty of details and context for what's happening. As I mentioned yesterday, the pendulum's swinging. We get a lot of fortunatelys in this one. So as we kind of ended yesterday's episode with the idea that the creditors beyond Thomson French, i.e. Dante, are still expecting their money on the date that they've asked for it, Morrel is able, with this time and the other resources that are coming into him, to pay those lesser amounts that he owes these other people, even though they aren't confident in his ability to do so. It says, still, confidence was not restored to all minds, and the general opinion was that the complete ruin of the unfortunate shipowner had been postponed, ... So everyone's expecting Morrel to go belly up any moment now, and they are expecting him not to be able to pay his bills. Now, this is just what's happening, right? Let's dig a little bit deeper into what this means exactly. So as we're following Morrel, why is Dumas telling us all of this? It's not just to explain what happens. This is giving us insight into Morrel a bit. Obviously, honor and respect, dignity, these are all things that seem to be of high importance to him. The fact that he can pay his bills on time means that he's not disgraced, as he was fearful of, and as people still expect. The complete ruin, that doesn't just mean bankruptcy. As we've talked about before, that means so much more to Morrel. So even though he's able to pay these things on time, it is by the skin of his teeth. And I think that is meant to set up a sort of anxiety in us, the readers, through our empathy for Morrel. We know what's important to him, and have you ever just barely had a check cash the second before you had to pay a credit card bill, utility bill? Like, there's that, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do this week. I don't know. I just don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. That is what Morrel is going through here. He has people counting on him, and it's just every turn he's able to make it happen. Fate, as he said in the yesterday's episode, he just assumes that fate has gotten bored and tired with shitting all over him. So there's a little, do I want to call it suspense, or just, it's not really suspense. It's just a growing, subtle anxiety that Dumas is employing here. And lastly, we get to see Captain Gaumard, the captain of the Pharaon, and interesting. Okay, hold two things here. Let's talk about all of the crew of the Pharaon, who we expect Dante to just kind of disappear into the mist, like it says, but it also says that the crew, all As to the sailors of the Pharaon, they must have found snug berths elsewhere, for they also had disappeared. Where'd the crew go? Last chapter, Morrel let them go free to find other employment because he doesn't have a ship and can't pay them. So they just up and disappeared out of nowhere. And Gomar reappears and seems to be a little ashamed on behalf of Morrel and doesn't want to overburden him with wages and back pay. But this is also another thing, I think, an indication of this stuff being important to Morrel. He seeks out Captain Gomar in order to pay him. Like, no bill left unpaid. He's not allowing for any bit of recrimination for having not lived up to his word and his word of paying his sailors. So will we get a little bit more with Captain Gomar tomorrow and some information about the crew of the Pharaon? I don't know. There's only one way to find out, and that's to continue with Chapter 30. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.